All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. I know there's still participants joining us, but thank you again. Today, we are going to be talking about the Master of Finance, or MFin program, and providing you with some application tips for the application. Actually, it's 2023 application. My name is Diane Jordan. I have the privilege of being part of the admissions team here at MIT Sloan. I am joined by several of my colleagues who are actually going to be working behind the scenes to answer your questions. Thank you to everyone who did submit questions in advance. Hopefully our slides and what we go through today will answer most, if not all of those. If you do have questions throughout the presentation, go ahead and put them in the Q&A. We'll answer some of them as we go along, and others we'll leave that may be of interest to everyone here. So we will answer them live at the end of the session. But again, it's great to see so many people who are interested in learning more about our MFin program and how to apply to it. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm also going to share with you an agenda. So we will do a very quick MFin program overview and a look at the class profile. This is the current class of 123 students. There's a lot of information and other webinars that we've done that goes into more detail about the curriculum, what to expect as a student in the program. So I encourage you beyond today's session to also take a look at that information that is on our website and any past recordings that we have links to on our MIT Sloan Admissions YouTube channel. We will talk, of course, about admissions criteria, the things that we're looking for, and then the application process. So we really want to focus on that. As hopefully you all know, the deadline for 2023 is the 5th of January. So hard to believe it's already December. It's a little less than a month away. So we'll talk about some of the requirements again, some tips on how to best put forward a strong application, and then some important dates. And again, as I said, we'll try to take as many of your questions as possible. So I'm going to go through a lot of the slides fairly quickly, but I also want to share with you, when we talk about the program, we talk about it being, very rigorous. It is a global program. While we're not strictly an MFE, or Master's of Financial Engineering. That said, though, the program really strikes a balance between the deeper quantitative finance that you need to really launch your career in finance, as well as understanding the essentials of modern finance, which after all was created at MIT Sloan. We take that claim and we put a stake in it. And many of our faculty who teach have actually written the textbooks on topics around modern finance. It is primarily now an 18-month program. There is an opportunity to fast track in 12 months. The reality is that 74% of our current students are coming directly from university, and so they really value the 18-month for a number of reasons, in particular, the summer internship opportunity. The 12-month track is really more for individuals who are coming with some full-time work experience. And I will mention this up front, if you don't already know this, it really is an early career pre-professional program. And by that, we mean that, again, the majority of students are coming directly from university, so they've had some internships internship experience. The remaining students have anywhere from 1 to 2, possibly 3 years of full-time work experience. So I think that's an important aspect to note about the program. Again, it's a deep dive into quantitative finance. We have a somewhat flexible curriculum in that you can take some courses, you can cross-register at Harvard's professional schools, you can take courses throughout MIT. We very much have, as part of I would say, a highlight of what we do at MIT Sloan and in the MFin program too, is what we call action learning. It's really taking what you've learned in the classroom and putting it into practical terms. And most MFin students do that through the January timeframe when there are no classes, and they can do one of the action learning labs called Finance Lab or Fin Lab. And then there are extensive career resources, because we know that you are looking for the tools that you need to successfully launch your careers. In addition, you have the option, it's not a requirement, not part of the degree, to take a concentration. You can only do one, but you can do them in either capital markets, corporate finance, financial engineering, or impact finance. So the whole space around ESG and impact finance or investing, of course, is something that's on top of minds for people in the finance field. I would say the majority of our students are in the financial engineering concentration if they do pursue that, but we've seen a lot of interest generated in the impact finance sphere as well. So this is just a timeline to give you, again, a sense of what you can expect in the program. It does start, and I think this is an important aspect to remind everyone that it does start with a summer term. It is a fully residential in-person summer term that starts on the 5th of July in 2023. You will get some of these core courses that are required as part of the degree. And then you go into, there's just a little bit of a break at the end of the summer term. And then you go into the fall term. And as you can see here, we have specific courses that are built around, again, core requirements. There is the January independent activities period where students, again, get to take what they've learned in the classroom and apply it in working on a project team. Most MFins do take advantage of the Finance or Fin Lab to do that and work with a company sponsor on a project. It's a high impact challenge. It's not a hypothetical, and it's a really exciting way to get to learn what a company is facing in terms of those challenges. And then students come back after the IAP period or independent activities period and complete either analytics of finance or the advanced analytics of finance. If you are in the 12-month cycle, you'll graduate in June. For everyone else, you have the opportunity to take advantage of an optional internship or summer internship. We have dedicated career advisors who work with students to help you navigate that and work with potential employers for the summer internship. And then return for a final fall semester, and that is where you will complete your degree requirements, any additional electives. Some of our students choose to also go on and do a PhD. It's not required, it's not automatic. You would have to apply, but every year we have a handful of students who are interested in doing that. And so a thesis is really a valuable part of being able to, strengthen their PhD application. So I mentioned the class profile, as you can see here. So we have 123 students in the current class. They have on average 16 months of work experience. So that includes any internships. And as I said, 74% of the students come directly from university. They are also coming majority from a STEM, science, technology, engineering, or maths undergrad degree. So this is the bachelor's level. We have a very strong international student population, 93% of the class, and there are 23 countries represented. So a lot of diversity in terms of where students are coming from. And we have a nice mix in terms of gender, 47% women and 53% are men. And all this information, by the way, is available on our website. So I encourage you to continue to research the program through all the various resources we have available online too. And so when you look at their undergraduate majors, and I know we get a lot of questions around this, as you can see, it's really spread out across a number of different disciplines. So we have science, math, business, econ, humanities, computer science, engineering. So it's really wide ranging. And I think that's what's really makes the program interesting, and the cohort of students, because they all bring different perspectives to the experience and to their time there at MFin. So I know this is on everyone's minds, especially as we're talking about application and what we're looking for in terms of the admissions process. So there's really three key buckets, if you will, that are important and that we're going to be looking at. I know it's a cliche and we use the word a lot, but we really do take a holistic approach. So we're going to look at, of course, your academic record, but beyond transcripts, we want to understand what courses have you taken. And this can be at the, undergraduate or bachelor's level. It could be at other levels. It could be online courses, but we want to understand that you have some fundamental knowledge particularly in mathematics, in courses like linear algebra, probability, statistics, multivariable calculus. These are really important because as you go into the program, a lot of the work you're going to be doing is around modeling, stochastic processes, vector analyses. Without having a strong foundation in some, if not all, of these mathematics, and call them elemental or fundamental mathematics, you're going to find yourself spending a lot of time just trying to catch up. So this is one of the reasons we emphasize this as part of your academics. Computer programming, while it's not a requirement, we definitely are interested in knowing if you have some familiarity or what familiarity you have with R or Python. It's highly recommended. Again, it goes back to what I was just mentioning before in terms of the work that you're going to be doing. There will be times where you will need coding, and it is built into the program that at some point you do have to become proficient, particularly in R or Python. So the more that you can do ahead of enrolling in the program, the better it's going to be for you. And we accept online courses for that. It does not have to be a formal course at your university. And in some cases, some people have learned it either in an internship or on the job if you're working full time. Coming from STEM disciplines, again, is also value add. But we have many students, as you saw from the class profile, who have finance, stats, accounting, economics coursework. These are all extremely valuable. And then, of course, whatever your academic recommenders say about you is going to be considered as part of your overall academic record. Industry knowledge. Again, because this is an early career program, we don't expect that you're going to know everything about every single role in finance, but we do want to get a sense that you have a commitment to the field of finance. So that could be demonstrated through previous internships, work that you've done in the field. What's your understanding of the different career paths that one can take, buy side, sell side? Do you want to be in more of a quant related role, or are you interested in more traditional iBanking? So these are the kinds of things that we will get to learn more about you, not only through your application, but as you continue through the admission stages. And then excellent communication and interpersonal skills sort of goes without saying, but we mention it here. So outstanding written and spoken English language proficiency. We want to see examples of where you have been a team player. And this is both in your, academics in terms of your university or college experiences, as well as any internships or work. And then we are also looking for students who want to engage in the MIT community beyond just the classroom. So many of our MFin students have really stepped up in recent years and become part of either Sloan Senate or officers in various finance-related clubs, other activities that they've led. So this is, again, we're going to be looking at what you have done thus far, but also what you're expressing in terms of your commitment to the field of finance. So let's just go a little bit through the application checklist. So as I mentioned, you all know hopefully by now that the deadline is the 5th of January. We have one intake. We do not do anything with applications before that deadline. So just make sure that you've covered all the bases, that your transcripts are submitted, that you followed our instructions on the resume, essays, short answers. There are 2 video questions. One of the video questions is a random question that you'll be asked at the end once you've put all of your application components together. It's not a technical question, so there's no advanced preparation, but it is one that you'll have to answer on the spot. And then the 3 letters of recommendation. I know there were some questions in advance about this. If you are currently enrolled in school or in university, you should be submitting 2 academic letters of recommendation and 1 professional, hopefully from a more recent internship. And then if you have been working full-time for a couple of years, we still are looking for the academic ones, but if it makes more sense because you've been away from university to submit 2 professional ones, we will accept that as well. This year on the test scores, either the standard tests or the English language tests, we have relaxed the requirement due to the continuing challenges of COVID. And so we understand that it may be difficult for people to submit them. There's absolutely no negative inference if you choose not to do so. So again, it's really your call as to whether you can submit or can take those tests and submit those scores. You will not be asked to do so at a later time. And there is no special request or waiver that you need to complete in order to not have to submit those tests. And then what happens after the January 5th application deadline is we review applications, and then anyone who's advancing in the admissions stage will be asked or invited to an interview. And I can talk a little bit about those, but essentially the interview is going to be a combination of a one-on-one with an admissions professional. We do not ask current students to conduct interviews. It is a competency-based, behavioral-based interview. And then there's a second component of the interview process that is a technical one where you will be asked for some coding and mathematics questions and perhaps some other questions. All of that will be laid out for anyone who's moving to that stage of the admissions process. We will provide more details at that time. Interviews typically take place throughout the month of February. So from a timing standpoint, that's what you can anticipate. Okay, so I'm going to go very quickly through each of these components because I've talked a little bit about them. But again, this is all available online in our application. So I encourage you, again, please read them carefully. Make sure you've followed all of our instructions. You're going to upload your transcripts from all colleges and universities you have attended or are currently attending. If you're currently earning a degree, you upload your most up-to-date transcript. We are going to review transcripts carefully and double check that what you have uploaded is legible. If it's in a language other than English, you're going to submit both the original version in that language as well as a translated version. Unfortunately, we cannot accept, excuse me, digitally signed or encrypted transcripts. If you're having any issues, print out the transcript, scan it, and upload it as a PDF. Once you're admitted to the program, you will be required, however, to provide an official signed and sealed transcript from all the schools that you attended. So just make sure everything is lined up and that you have all the information we need as far as the transcripts are concerned. And then we are looking for you to submit a 1-page resume, and it should be formatted in such a way that you use a standard Times New Roman font, size 10, Word or PDF formats only. Again, you know, if you think about, we're looking at a lot of information across applications. And so if you follow these and make it as easy as possible for the admissions committee to review, it's going to just strengthen your application. And then we want to ensure that you provide the information in reverse chronological order. So education, full-time work experience, internships, other work experience, additional information. You'll see all of this again in the application instructions itself. The short answer questions. So for question 1, we're looking for you to discuss your past academic and professional experiences and accomplishments that'll help you succeed in the Master of Finance program. So we want to hear about any achievements you've had, particularly in finance, math, statistics, computer sciences, anything that's applicable. We're going to ask you to describe your short-term and long-term professional goals. You know, how do you see the MFin degree sort of helping you to reach these goals? And then any personal qualities that will enable you to contribute to the advancement of our mission. So again, answer the questions, 200 words or less. But this is really going to be another important aspect of us getting to know you through your application materials. The videos, so I mentioned there are two. The first one, it's really just introducing yourself to your future classmates. It's a chance for you to put a face to, everything that's on paper essentially, and to be conversational, be yourself. We really want to get to know you better. It should not be more than 1 minute in length. I wouldn't spend a lot of time redoing or retaking, but it is important to ensure that you're speaking directly to the camera, that, don't include any background music or subtitles or distractions where we can't hear you. So just make sure that from that standpoint, but be yourself. We want to hear about you. You're introducing yourselves to your future classmates. So what do you want to tell them about yourself? And then the second video, as I mentioned, is a randomized general interest question. You have 60 seconds to respond. You just make sure again that you won't have an internet connected computer with a webcam and a microphone. It appears in the left-hand navigation of your application only after you've completed all those sections of the application. So when you go through that review process, if you're missing something, you will not be able to access the second video question until you complete everything else. And then once you view the question, you'll have 1 minute to prepare your 60-second response. I promise you there's absolutely no prior preparation, and it is not a technical question. So again, it's just another way for us to get to know you better and for you to sort of put a face to the name in terms of your application. That's mostly, words on pieces of paper. The letters of recommendation, I think I mentioned this before, but at least one must come from someone who can speak to your quantitative abilities. If you are a current student, submit 2 from your school. If you've attended more than one university, maybe you've done exchange programs or you transferred. If you want to have one from each of those universities, that's perfectly acceptable. And in terms of, the professional letter, we obviously want from, if you're working full-time, from a current supervisor, or from an internship, a previous supervisor. And as I mentioned, if you are working full-time, one letter of recommendation should come from a recent employer and another from an academic source, preferably a previous professor. And all the letters of recommendation should be submitted through the link in the application. We know that in some cases there are firewalls at companies and they don't always go through. We have a general MFin admissions email that you can absolutely let us know if a recommender is having challenges. We will make sure to reach out to them directly so that they can successfully link or access that link through the application. But that is the only way we can accept those letters of recommendation. I know there were some questions about, can I submit more than 3 letters? We really prefer that you just submit the 3 that we're asking for. We have a lot to go through in terms of the applications, and to be perfectly equitable and fair to all applicants, it's really in your best interest to, again, submit the 3 letters of recommendation. That's really what we're looking for. And then test scores, again, I won't go into this. There's absolutely no negative inference if you do not choose to submit test scores this year. And you will not be required to take the tests at a later time, and there's no separate waiver that you need to complete in order to do so. So interviews, again, most of the interviews will happen during the month of February. They will be conducted via Zoom platform. And you may be asked to submit additional materials before the interview. If you are advancing to this step in the admissions process, we will let you know all those details as it gets closer to that time. So some of the dates, just to, again, reminder, and these are all on our website, the application deadline, 5th of January. So make sure you have everything in, especially with recommenders. I would encourage you to, just make sure you keep in contact with them, that they've submitted their letters of recommendation. Make sure your transcripts are all legible and submitted, and everything else that we've asked for. Interviews, there may be some the last week in January, but majority are going to be in February. Final decisions, we release those on the 10th of March. And then if you are going to matriculate, we will be looking for your deposit and acceptance on the 15th of April. Okay, so I am going to actually stop sharing the screen now and see what questions we have. that I can answer live. So I think there's looks like a lot of questions answered, but a lot still open too. Okay, let me see if I can take these in the order that they were received. So is there a, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jen.
I was going to say, let me know if you want me to read them to you. Otherwise,
yeah, I think I have them, but you can tell me if I'm get the wrong ones or not. So I think one question here, which I believe I already answered, was on the math and coding this year. So I'll skip over that one for the moment. Let's see, question about prerequisite classes. I will take the multivariable class in the spring, which means I won't be able to complete that class by the time I submit. That's fine. Yeah, thank you for the question. So if you have not, there will be courses, obviously, particularly since most of you are still in university or college, there will be some courses that you are planning to take in the spring term. As long as you list them, we understand that, and we know that they're in progress or will be taken in the spring term. That's absolutely fine. Thank you for that. I'm wondering, how flexible is it to switch from the 18 to 12 month or vice versa? Yep, great question. So the program is designed to be delivered in 18 months. That being said, though, we recognize that for some students, and again, if you look at the application, there is a box that asks you, are you applying for the 12-month only? And I would advise any prospective student that you should only check that box if you've already got full-time work experience and you're applying with full-time work experience. For everyone else, I would highly encourage you to apply to the 18-month. There is a point after the summer term where you may have the opportunity with the, again, it would have to be a discussion with the MFin program academic office to see whether you can fast track to the 12-month. And there are times when students have done that. But I would say for most of you, you're applying, you'll be considered for the 18-month. At some point, there is an opportunity, as I said, after the summer term, to have a conversation with the program office to determine whether fast tracking to the 12-month makes more sense for you for for a variety of reasons. So do I need to decide during my application whether I want to complete the degree? Oh, okay. So I think I just answered that question. So again, if you are already working full-time and you know absolutely that you'll go, you're fine going back after 12 months to full-time opportunities, then you can check the box for 12 months. Otherwise, I would say 18 months. Particularly, if you are working full-time and you're looking to perhaps pivot to a different side of finance, you may want to consider, though, the 18-month because you are making that pivot and it may not be as easy. So say you're coming from a background that you want to move into traditional investment banking, you might see the 18-month as an opportunity to do a summer internship, for example, in corporate finance or investment banking, and give you a little bit more leverage for full-time opportunities later on. Let's see, I'm a student from Canada. How the admission team evaluates grades from different grading systems. Yep. No, great question. So you absolutely do not need to worry about that. We have systems in place that can calculate and evaluate all the different grading systems. We get applicants from many, many countries around the world and different educational systems. So we're very familiar with them, but it's a great question. Thank you. Does MIT provide accommodations upon application during the summer internship period? Yep, absolutely. So housing, in fact, I would say the majority of MFin students choose to stay on campus for housing, and they will have housing available to them during the summer term, as well as into the rest of the time that they're in the program. Would you say any length of work experience more than 3 years might not be appropriate for the MFin degree? So it's not so much, again, as whether it's appropriate or not. It's really more, what side of finance and what functional area of finance are you currently working in? If your plan is to, sort of do a little bit of a pivot, then that the MFin program could be a good option for you. It really just depends. But I would say, again, it's more of an early experience. Our career services are also geared to work with students who are at that earlier stage of their profession. So if you look at our employment report, and maybe I'll ask someone on my team if they can put in a link to the most recent employment reports, because I think those are really valuable to helping you understand where most of our students land. So I would say it depends. But it is a little bit longer than what most of the MFin students are coming in with in terms of any work experience. I was wondering if there were any jobs forum hosted on campus during this year to facilitate network opportunities between students and companies. Absolutely. We have many ways that students do this. So as you might imagine, many of our students, while they're here in the States studying at MIT Sloan in the program, are very interested in both buy side and sell side. So Boston companies have easy access and often do networking events on our campus. It is MIT after all. We have many employers in New York City as well as other cities in the US. In some cases, some students who are more interested on the commodity side in Chicago, a little bit of PE in the San Francisco or Bay Area. But we also have employers who are, multinationals or are global companies. And so there are many ways, both in person as well as virtually, that students engage with those companies. And our career office has employer relations advisors who work directly with those employers. Students also have access to the larger MIT, the institutes, any of the programs that they offer to students. So you really have a very powerful network in terms of being able to work with potential employers. But it's also up to you to do the networking too. And a lot of the students do that through, again, not only the more obvious ways through relying on our career advisors, but also through joining clubs, being active in any other events and activities that happen on campus. Is it mandatory to know programming when applying for the program? It is not a prerequisite. That being said, though, it is highly encouraged that you have some familiarity. And I know that seems very broad in terms of when we say familiarity, but some exposure, again, either through courses, could be online, could be otherwise, with R or Python, or perhaps you've, done some internships where you've learned a little bit of coding. So it is encouraged, and there will be a time in the program where students will have to be proficient in either R or Python. Okay, so someone's asking about, I think it's more specific around your background. So I think if you're coming from an accounting background, but you have, say you have internships in asset management and private equity, that's all relevant. In terms of your application, you're going to want to showcase on your resume, obviously, your CFA level 1, the fact that you have taken an online course in Python. There are many ways that you can showcase all the things that you've done thus far to demonstrate that you have some of the skills to be successful and really thrive in the MFin program. Okay. My transcript is not US GPA. I think I answered that question earlier, so don't worry about converting GPAs. We have systems in place to do that. We work with many different applicants from different educational backgrounds. Let's see, I don't know if I'm getting all these in order. Let's see. Will boot camping coding skills through LinkedIn Learning help on strengthening the application? So again, it's a great question. Any way that you can demonstrate that you have some familiarity, whether it's through an online course, whether it's through learning on an internship or job, that you've done some coding or some deeper data analytics, those are the kinds of things that we're going to be looking for. So someone who's worked in another country and not in the US, is that a red flag? Absolutely not. We have, again, if you look at our current class profile, 93% of the students are coming from our international students, are coming from outside the US as well. And we have 23 different countries represented. So many students are coming from a variety of backgrounds and companies that they've worked for, organizations. Let's see. Okay, someone asking about, they have a return offer from a summer internship and are hesitant to ask for a letter of recommendation because it may impact their future employment if they are not successful in enrolling in a program. Yes, it can. It's fine if you, I would mention that somewhere in your application, that's the reason you're asking for a letter of recommendation from another internship. But yes, we totally understand that in that type of situation. We may at a later time, though, as you advance in the admissions process, ask to then speak to the more recent one. About demonstrating quantitative abilities, major in econ. I've taken some challenging courses in math and engineering, so that's great. Yeah, I mean, again, it's a balance. So I'm going to making this up now, but let's just say you've taken econometrics, you've done really well in that. Maybe you've taken a couple of other courses. Some of those courses, perhaps you think the grading system is really tough, and so they don't accurately reflect your abilities. We are going to look at everything. I promise you, we will evaluate and assess, and one thing may offset the other. So again, it's really a combination of factors. What we want to know and understand is that, are you going to thrive in the MFin program? Do you have a solid foundation academically, and do you have a commitment to the field of finance that makes this really valuable, and what we're looking for in terms of your contribution to the MIT community overall. So I think there's a specific question around not being able to get a certificate of internship. If you could send that separately, because I think we'd have to look into that. Does my academic 3 letters of recommendation have to be from an employer? Does my non-academic 3rd letter of recommendation have to be from an employer? Could it be from another person, such as my coach? Yeah, no, it really should be from an employer. We're looking for a professional letter of recommendation. So that is our preference. Let's see. Yeah, absolutely. If someone said they founded a finance society, absolutely. Go ahead and, again, anything that demonstrates where you have a commitment to the field of finance and that you have some background and skills, both academically and in terms of any internships, we're going to be looking at all of that. It makes no difference to us. Someone's asking about graduating with a Bachelor of Commerce or a Bachelor of Science. Absolutely makes no difference. It's more, we're looking at, again, the courses that you've taken. What's the nature of the courses? Are they, how quantitative in nature are the courses that you've taken? Yeah, so question about, since many of us are undergraduates, should we still consider applying if we do not have full-time experience? Absolutely. The program is a pre-experience or early professional program. 74% of the current students are coming directly from university. So you'd be in great company. And that is the whole point of it, is that we are, looking to see what internships or other, maybe you've done some research with faculty, maybe you've worked for on the regulatory side of finance, but anything that you've done to demonstrate where you have an interest or commitment to the field of finance is also helpful. So for someone who is currently working full-time, you should really be, one of your letters of recommendation, if it cannot be from your direct manager because of concerns of letting your current employer know about your plans to attend a master's program, then see if you could get a professional letter of recommendation from either another colleague who would be willing to do so confidentially, or if you've had internships prior to your full-time work, that is our preference, to have at least one professional recommendation. A question about the percentage of students, I think is what the question is, or who are in each of the concentrations. So it's a great question. I don't know that we have released statistics on how many. I can tell you, though, anecdotally, that students who do pursue a concentration, because remember, it is optional, it is not required, that the majority of them we have found have been very interested in the financial engineering one. But we've also seen an uptick in the numbers of students who are now interested in the impact investing or impact finance concentration, which was only released a couple of years ago. So there is strong interest in that, particularly, as you know, in the finance field now, there's a lot of emphasis on how that can be built into the work that many firms are doing now. So I already talked about the interview assessment. A question about any finance knowledge required beforehand, as I'm an engineering student and more familiarity with math and computer science. Absolutely not. We have many students who, again, if you look at the class profile, who are coming from engineering backgrounds. So it's more, do you help us to connect those dots as to what your interest is in the finance field, what your understanding is of the types of roles or types of opportunities that you can pursue as part of being in the finance field. Another question, how long would the interval from the interview invitation to the formal date of the invitation? Yes, so great question. We make every effort to give you a week to 2 weeks notice on when you are being invited to an interview. Keep in mind, again, that we will give you dates that you can choose from throughout the month of February. So there's a little flexibility there, but we try to give you as much advance notice as possible. How are non-finance STEM background applicants viewed? I think I already answered that question. So if a student has a previous hardship, which impacts the grades, but showed an improvement later on, how would this? It does not negatively. In fact, it's a great question. And this is a perfect example of where we're looking very holistically at everything. So you're going to obviously want to mention somewhere in the application where this is your grades perhaps were impacted by something that was beyond your control and how you overcame it. So we are going to be looking at all of that. Absolutely. Are university group projects considered as coursework? I'm not sure I understand clearly that question, but we're not looking at separate individual projects. We're looking at your actual courses that you've taken. Let's see. So I understand that there's a lot of questions around whether or not the IELTS or TOEFL, the English language tests need to be submitted this year. We have relaxed the requirement again due to the ongoing challenges of COVID and the pandemic. So you absolutely do not need to submit them. If you choose to, that's totally up to you. But if you choose not to submit them, there's absolutely no negative inference. And we have many ways of assessing how your English language communication skills. So it is not a problem. Again, for this year, there is absolutely no negative inference if you choose not to submit those tests. Another question around, can I apply to business analytics and MFin at the same time? Absolutely. We have many students who do. Keep in mind, however, that of course, while the application deadline for both programs, it happens to fall on the same date in 2023, they are separate applications, separate admissions processes. But absolutely no negative inference. Every year we have students who are interested in both programs. Let's see what else. Yeah, so a question about the math and coding assessments. We have not finalized how those will look, but again, it's really an opportunity for us to get to understand a little bit better your familiarity and your baseline foundation in mathematics. I can tell you last year on the math questions, it was a combination of a little bit of calculus, a little bit probability, statistics. For the coding, again, because our preference is on R and Python, it'll be somewhat related to that. But more to come. Again, for anyone who's advancing in the admission stage, we will give you some more details around what to expect for the interview process. Let's see. So there's a question here. Whoops, it just went away. Okay, will there be a school bias, such as students who have graduated from prestigious schools more? We absolutely do not have any bias in any way in terms of the schools or universities. We have students come from many different schools and universities around the world. You know, we never know in any given year who is applying. We talk to prospective students who are interested in us through our many events that we have, our recruiting activities, but ultimately we have no way of knowing who's applying and from which school. So we are not laser focused on your particular university. Again, we're looking at everything. We're looking at the strength of your academics and your courses. How quantitative in nature are they? How well have you done in those types of courses? And then again, all the other things that we've talked about in terms of, you know, why do you want to pursue a Master of Finance? What's your interest in the field of finance? Applications are reviewed only after the deadlines while completing the European schools offering. Okay, there's a rolling basis for other schools that have similar programs. If we've received an offer from a European school, but MIT is still the preference, what do we do? So we have this every year. It's a great question. And what we advise students, and we hope that other schools will do the same, is you need to ask for, you know, an extension in terms of the deadline required. Most schools are pretty accommodating, and we hope that we are within sort of the general timeline of when other schools are making offers. If you have a particular situation that's really pressing, you can always reach out to us through our email, but generally speaking, most students will ask for an extension on the deadline. If I major in statistics and computer science, does doing internships both related to financial engineering and investment banking be good? Yeah, of course, it would certainly help to for us to understand, again, demonstrates your commitment to the field of finance. What proportion of candidates who are selected into the interview process will finally be admitted? So it's a great question. We actually do not release those statistics, but I can tell you that about about a third rather of the applicants do get invited to interview. Last year, we had a little over 1,900 applications. So we seed a class of about 120 students. So that just kind of gives you a sense of, you know, it is a selective process. But, you know, we encourage you to, again, put all your best foot forward in terms of your application and everything that we've asked for. Could I elaborate on how to attend the Harvard crossover courses? Yep. So Harvard professional school students can cross-register at either Harvard Business School, the law school, or the Kennedy School of Government. That being said, though, Harvard is on a different academic calendar year than we are. So it's a little bit of navigating that. You're not going to take more than 1 or 2 courses if you're in the 18-month. If you're in the 12-month, it's even, you know, 1 course potentially. So it is a little harder from that standpoint, but it's totally doable, and our students have managed to do that. And keep in mind too that you can also take courses throughout MIT. So we have academic advisors who are dedicated advisors, work with students one-on-one to help you navigate just, you know, when are courses offered, what's the best way for me to take advantage of a particular course that I might be interested in either at Harvard or at other parts of MIT. Should internships be only in international companies, or having internships in local companies suitable? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are looking at not necessarily only the location of, or company that you've interned in, but what have you done? We understand that they're short for the most part, these summer internships in particular, but we want to understand, again, did you make an effort to get an internship in the field of finance? What was your role? What kinds of things did you learn as a result of that internship? If you already have a master's degree in management, would it impact on my MFin application? Not necessarily. It depends if you've already completed your degree or you're currently in a master's in management at one of the schools where we have and arrangements where you can do your second year. But no, I mean, we would just want to know, you know, what else, why is it important for you to now pursue another master's degree, and in particular in finance? I'm not sure I understand one of these questions. Would the title of the recommender matter during the application, and would it be fine if the recommendation comes in later than the deadline? A famous professor agreed to write me a recommendation, but he is super busy. Okay, it's a great question. We are not evaluating your recommender. We are evaluating what they have to say about you. So if this is someone, if this famous professor is someone who has taught you a course, can speak to the 7 questions, or at least the majority of those 7 questions that we ask of our recommenders, then great, but it absolutely needs to be in by the deadline. We cannot guarantee anything submitted post the deadline will be included as part of our overall review. So I would say focus more on the person, not their title. Who is this person? What was the relationship? What do they know about the work that you do academically? And that's really who you should be focusing on in terms of those recommenders. Then it applies to professional as well as academic. So capital markets concentration, is it popular among students? It really varies. I would say, so, you know, here's another way to look at the concentrations. And again, this is something that students talk to their academic advisors about early on. By committing to a concentration, you potentially then, you know, because you're required to take all the courses for that particular concentration, may take away from perhaps other activities that you want to engage in while you're in the MFin program. So the way to look at it is, if you see yourself as someone who comes with very little background or knowledge in the capital markets, and this is the area that you want to really pursue, taking the concentration is sending a strong signal to a potential employer that you've developed deeper skills in that area. So it's really going to depend on what you want to get from it. And so I would say, again, the financial engineering concentration in recent years has been more popular than others, but it varies year over year. And again, how the markets are. So depending on, you know, what activities are happening in the general financial marketplace can also sometimes drive whether students pursue a particular concentration. If one grade is an important course like econometrics, doesn't reflect our knowledge in the field, how can we demonstrate that in the application? So again, I think it's a combination of other courses that you've taken, what your recommenders are saying about you, anything else that you've done. Maybe you've done some additional research or worked as, you know, doing some research with faculty or others, whatever your internships have been. All of that combined are going to tell the story of who you are, and in terms of, you know, demonstrating the skills that we are looking for. So one question is about a recent employer who transitioned to a new company, doesn't allow them to use their company ID. Can I submit my older internship? So yes, you can, but I think it would be helpful if you explain that. And then at some point, we may request to speak to that more recent employer. What if I am self-employed? Can the letter of recommendation come from my company? Yes, it can come from your company, but it should, in theory, be someone who is not related to you, not a family member. Perhaps there's a vendor or someone outside the company that you've worked closely with who can speak to those questions on a professional level. So another question around recent work experience as a startup relevant to finance. So there's no employer, but a business partner. So again, related to what I just said to the last questioner, is around your business partner, you both have a vested interest. Ideally, it should be someone who's not as connected in that way. So if there's a vendor or there's someone outside of your startup who can speak to your skills, ideally that would be a better choice in terms of the professional letter of recommendation. Good. A question around merit-based fellowships. So one thing I didn't mention, and I'm glad that we have questions about it. So here's how it works for our graduate program, and particularly for MFin. Anyone and everyone, I should say, who is admitted to the MFin program is automatically eligible and considered for what we call a merit-based fellowship. Keep in mind that these fellowships are not intended to cover the full cost of tuition, but they certainly help to offset those costs. The other aspect is that most of our students pursue in terms of financing their education is working with our student finance group in identifying, particularly if you're an international student, identifying loan opportunities that may be available to you. And then the third part of it is really personal finances or savings that our students put together. So it's really students sort of bundle, if you will, a package. If they are awarded a merit-based fellowship, they've got that piece of it. They will seek out other loans or scholarship opportunities. We have scholarships, some of which are on our website, so you can take a look at. They're not all inclusive. You would apply to them separately, but certainly those are opportunities that students seek out to help finance their education, as well as looking into, whatever other, as I said, other loan opportunities might be available. Let's see. Can we dual enroll in another arts program, music? No, unfortunately, there's no, you can potentially maybe take an elective course, but the reality is there you have to be in the MFin program. There's no dual program or dual degree opportunities. Can the 2 academic references be from exchange programs? My 2 academic references and 1 professional reference are already submitted, or 1 academic reference must be from my home undergraduate. Okay, so ideally it would have been 1 from your undergraduate, but if you've already submitted the other 2, that's fine. We'll accept that. It's not necessary at this time to submit an additional letter of reference, but if we do need it, we will certainly ask for it. Is it inappropriate to use 1 academic reference to be ahead of academics at high school, given the difficult developing relation? Yeah, no, we're really focused on your bachelor's or your undergraduate degree. If you do not have a recent relevant internship, would an academic recommendation letter from a bit more applied setting do okay? My thesis advisor. Okay, so if you don't have a recent or relevant internship, if the internship is not necessarily relevant, but it's still an internship in a professional or work setting, we would prefer that be your professional letter of recommendation. If that's not the case, then yes, certainly you can use the thesis advisor. But again, I think you need to explain that in the application. Is a letter from an RA supervisor considered an academic letter? No, it is not. It should really be from a professor or someone who's taught you a course or that you've done research work with. Yeah, so the question about how do you submit, you would in the academic section of the application, you would list it as in progress. So you would list the course that you're going to be enrolled in as in progress. And then how are we compared with students from the same school? There is no comparison in terms of schools. It's, again, we're looking at each applicant individually, and overall, we're looking at all the things that I described earlier, the strength of your academics, what you've been doing in terms of any internships or research that are related to the field or that are quantitative in nature. These are all going to be important aspects as we want that it's a story that you're telling about who you are. And we want to look at all aspects of it so that we can better create an image of how you're going to thrive in the MFin program. So I know there's a lot more questions. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Absolutely, please stay in contact with us. We have our MFin admissions.MIT Sloan@MIT.edu general email address. I encourage you to send emails to us that way if you have further questions. We, really look forward to seeing your applications, and again, appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. And hopefully, we've been able to answer most, if not all, of your questions. So good luck, everyone. And again, please stay in contact. Thank you.